let's go to, well, the first thing I want to start off with is this. According to the scriptures, what is our customary burial? What is that? Anybody tell me what that is? Customary burial.
We was always buried for one, and in Christ's time they was wrapped in linen and things like that.
That's right. So we would bury our people. Well, we very seldom or at all did we ever do cremation. Cremation was not an option. Mummifying our bodies also was not an option. We didn't mummify our bodies. The Egyptians did, which were the heathens. Cremation was for the heathens. They cremated their bodies. All right, and so when you look at us, I mean, when you really think about burial and you look at cremation or even mummification, what's the first thought of your mind? If someone came to you and says, hey, Grandma wanted to cremate herself today. What's your first initiative thought?
Burning up Grandma.
Exactly. So, I mean, nobody wants to be burned up. That's the first thought. It's like your common sense, even without looking in the scriptures, common sense is we need to give them a proper burial. We need to put them in the ground. That's your common sense. That's your mind, right? But the second notion of your mind is, you know what? Let's consider this. And, you know, nobody got any money around here. Let's cremate Grandma. You know, and that's your second mind. That's not your first mind. You know what I mean? That's why he said in James 2:8, you know, a double-minded man is what?
Unstable in all his ways.
Unstable in all his ways. But our minds today, the burial function is an expensive way to go. People are making money off of burial. It's a $10 billion industry. You know, morticians burying people. All right, they got all kinds of ways to bury people nowadays.
And not just that, it's just the whole funeral setup in a whole.
Right.
The limousines, the renting the town hall,
everything.
The church. And then the caskets. Caskets run you about 10 grand easy.
Right.
I mean, I've seen some expensive caskets.
And that's not customary.
Yes,
no.
That's not customary. Caskets, we didn't have wooden caskets we put ourselves in.
No.
We didn't have wagons or stagecoaches that we marched them all around town. You know, we didn't do all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like in New Orleans. You go to New Orleans, well, how do they bury
their
type of stuff, man. It was quick. It was a quick process.
Let me say this, Doc.
Yeah.
Something I thought about. When you bury a body, like customary, the way we did it, not wrapping it up, mummifying it, whatever, bones are rich in oil. When you bury a body, it goes back to the earth. It's like a big recycling. That oil in the bones go back into the, it refertilizes the earth.
Right.
Everything works on cycle.
Right.
When you put it in a big box, like a casket, or you mummify it, those oils are not going to reach that soil the way it normally would if you put that body in the ground right.
Right.
The oil, and then the skin, all that stuff goes back.
It's a natural compost.
Right. Exactly.
It's a naturally decomposes.
Right.
To fertilize the earth. It's just natural, right? So the other ways of burial here in the United States, I'll tell you like this is in Great Britain you have cremation. The percentage rate that they use over there, it's about 75% people use cremation in Great Britain. You go over to Japan, you go over to, what's that, Switzerland? Yeah, Switzerland. That's 85%.
Damn.
Do you know the statistics of our people out there?
No, I don't know the statistics, but if our people over there, I'm sure they following the same customs.
Right.
But and when you get to Japan, Japan is 100% rate.
Cremation?
Cremation. So these are the Gentile nations up north, right? United States is more like 40%. People are still trying to do the traditional thing of burial. When you look at the military of the United States, when someone dies overseas, what do? They send the body back, right? And then they give them what? A proper burial, right? You don't see the military cremating people. You know, you don't see that. They give them a proper burial, all right? So that's something to think about. So where is that coming from? Remember, this nation was founded on Bible principles, right? In the United States. The other ways of disposing the body was promission. Promission is a form of taking liquid nitrogen and freezing your body. You ever seen like Terminator, where dude was made out of nitrogen? You couldn't stop him because he was flowing all the time. The way they stopped him, how did they stop him? They had to freeze him.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Or burn them. So liquid nitrogen is another form. You could freeze a body, and then they have this vibration. It's just so great.
Crack you up.
Yeah, it just cracks you up in many, many pieces. Breaks you up.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it breaks you up in the powder. Okay? And so they use that as another way. It's a cleaner version. It's another cleaner version of just, getting rid of a body. Okay, the last phase is, what is that they call it? Alkaline hydrolysis. Alkaline hydrolysis, if this was back in the Bible days, they would probably be using it. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you as we go through the scriptures who would use it and why they would use it. I don't think they would use it for everybody, but there was different ways, different reasons why we would use something like this. Okay, what this is, they got a huge machine. They will put you in a like an incubator machine with steam. It's just steam. It just boil your skin off till it evaporates. And the only thing left is your bones. Okay? A little different from cremation. Cremation is like 1,000 Celsius Fahrenheit. You know, it just burns you up. It even burns your bones after a while until that turns into powder. You know, and then people put their powder in or their ashes in the fireworks and shoot it up and send their ashes up into space or the park.
Or in the water.
Or in the ocean. Right? That's what they do with that. But for the most part, we're going to go into the scriptures and we're going to look at this stuff. So common sense tells us burying is still the proper way of burying. Okay, of doing away with the body.
Let's just real quick.
Yeah.
If you know this, can you explain, if you get a chance, where the casket come from? Where that whole idea come from?
So most of your caskets are made out of certain types of wood. You have teak. You have a teak wood, which is down south. Your best woods come from the southern part of the States or down South America, because you think of the rainforest, that wood is constantly getting pounded by water. That wood is a lot stronger and durable than this wood up here up north.
Right.
So that wood, it can withstand the decomposition of soil and all that stuff, so the wood lasts longer. Teak wood is one. You hear about lots of different types of woods in the Bible, right? Oak is pretty good, but not like teak. All right, so nowadays they use a lot of metal in the caskets now. So that's why you have a lot of grave guys who are going steel graves.
Right.
They take that casket, man. It's worth something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The nickel in there, they got all types of different metals in there. So back in the day, we didn't have stuff like that. Customary, all right?
Them grave robbers back then.
Yeah, I mean, hell, there was no grave robbers like that. I mean, unless you were like a prophet or something, they was trying to take your bones.
Yeah,
well, no, with that, and then, a lot of people bury the dead with
Hey, shalom, Ma. Can you hear me?
This is B.
Hey, shalom, brother.
How you doing, B?
Yeah, shalom, brother. So yeah, when it
No,
comes...
brother, this is Reggie.
Hey, shalom, Reggie. All praises.
Go on, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you look at
When
when you look at the burial of a lot of our brothers, you know, today, and you look at the amount of people that are here, there's billions upon billions of people here, so you have to look for a better way of decomposing bodies and burying them. Now, the Muslim way, I'm going to get into the scriptures, but I'm just want to fill you in with this. When you look at the Muslims, when a body dies of its own in the hospital or in the house, well, you can go and reclaim your family member's body. And how do you do that? There's a register's receipt that you take, right? And it shows the natural causes of it. Muslims are able to do this because they already got things set up. In Islam, they have a group of men that come in. They already get the paperwork signed from the registers, cause of death and all that stuff, and they take it to the doctor, and they're able to take the body and take it and give it the proper burial, right? Same thing with our custom that the Jewish people have taken. Same thing. They'll get something from the morgue. Why can I think of it? Let's put the city and county. What do they call it? Coroner's office, right? You go to the coroner's office, get that, take it to the hospital. It shows that you want possession of the body, okay? You find out the natural cause of the body, it's on that. Once you get that signed by the doctor, you take it back to the coroner's office, and they'll give you a burial certificate. You can just walk right up and give them the receipt. They'll give you a burial certificate to get the body. Then you go back, get the body, you take it, and you do the natural practices with that body. You know, wrap them in linen or whatnot, you know. And a lot of times, you know, people die in the house, it's a little different. Like, say, for example, a body dies in your house. Like, say, grandma dies in the house, right? So you take grandma, and you're like, okay, it's going to be 24. We live way out in the boondocks. It's going to be a while before the ambulance and stuff get here. We don't want to move her body. So people naturally will put a pillow up under grandma's head. Don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm telling you this stuff because, look, I worked in the field at one time where I had to fingerprint people who was dead. You know what I'm saying? I had to move bodies. All right? So when a person dies, first thing sets in is what? Within 24 hours, you got rigor mortis. So if you're setting a pillow up under grandma's head, what's going to happen? When you remove that pillow, her body's going to be awkward. It's not going to be a straight. It's not going to be a straight spine. You want her head laying on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And so your mouth is open, your eyes are open. First thing you want to do, close the mouth, close the eyes. If you get somebody from a hospital, they're going to have stuff all in the house, in the mouth. A lot of times they're not going to take it out. So you got to get that out of there if you're going to do the proper burial process, right? You got to do all of that. So I'm telling you this because there is a process for a burial. And a lot of times people are paying money to services that do that for them, that just rape them with charges and with money. You know, people don't want to go through the grief part and all that stuff, so they just pay most people. But for people who are who know that they're Islam, they will take charge of that. Same thing with our people. We're supposed to do the same thing. We're supposed to get our people, give them the proper burial, and it's not 7 days. We do it right away. You know, 3 days. You look at Yahweh when he went to go see Lazarus. Lazarus was already in the ground before he even get there. He didn't find out till the 3rd day. He was already buried. Right? So, you know, you do it right away. So let's go into the scriptures real quick. First and foremost, let's see if this is written in our law. Give me Deuteronomy 21. Because you're not going to find it written in no other place but here. Deuteronomy 21 and verse 22. Read that for me out.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree. But thou shalt in any wise bury him that day.
Bury him that day. And that's from the Most High's mouth to Moses' mouth to the children of Israel. All right. So he's telling you to bury your dead. Okay. Now there was an incident in the scriptures where they had 2 Passovers and the coroners were burying people, and they said, hey, we're ceremonial unclean because we were burying bodies. So a second Passover was granted. Okay. So there's scriptures in there that shows you that people are burying other people. We just didn't leave our bodies out to die, all right, or die on top of the ground because, like this precept we just read, if you leave a man on a tree overnight, 24 hours, that's when Rick and Morty set in, what happens? The whole ground is a curse. The whole ground is a curse. So, I mean, you see it right now. You drive down the street and you see a roadkill on the ground. Everybody's swerving around it because what? It's disgusting. Like, oh man, you know, it's a curse. You making frowns and looking, you know, trying to keep your kids from looking at that stuff. It's a curse. So imagine if bodies were out. All right. So keep reading that. Read the 23rd verse again.
Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 23. His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is accursed of God.
Right. And so that's why when you look at Judas Iscariot, the land that he was hung on, he was there longer for a day. That whole ground is cursed. I think right now it's a garbage zone. It's like a garbage dumping place to this day. All right. Give me John 5 and 28. So if you're looking for it in the exact law that was given to Moses, that's the only place you're going to find it. But it's customary that we bury the dead. Now, when you go into the book of Genesis, we're going to go there when it speaks about Abraham, what they did.
John 5 and 28?
Yeah, give me John 5 and 28.
John chapter 5, verse 28. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, in which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice.
All right, so he says, all that are in the grave shall hear his voice. Now, who are we speaking to right now? Yahushua was speaking to the Israelites. So we weren't cremating our people. We weren't you know, putting them on the ship, sitting them out in the ocean with the ship on fire. We wasn't doing none of that stuff. That's what the Gentiles did, right? Keep going.
Verse 29. And shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation.
Resurrection of damnation. So we're looking at a resurrection coming for those who are buried in the graves. Come on.
Verse 30. I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge. And my judgment is just.
So Yahushua is going to judge, but he's not going to judge with his judgment. He's going to come with the Most High's judgment. Right? So there's no person of character is going to be able to change his thought process based on your comical ways or you trying to say, hey, well, I did this for such and such. He's going to judge justly. Come on.
Because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. There is another that beareth witness of me, and I know that the witness which he witnesseth is of me is true.
Right, so the witness of him is true. So Moses is the one who pushed forth this information about the burial from the Most High. So that's a customary thing, right? So it's not going to really go in the scriptures on cremation. So it doesn't really give you room for open discussion on that cremation part, because that was our custom, burial. That was all we were supposed to know, was burying our forefathers. All right, let's go to Revelation 20 and 12.
The book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were open.
And the books were open, which is your life and the scriptures. Come on.
And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead that were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works.
According to their works. So this is us keeping the laws and having a conscience of understanding according to Yahushua. Go ahead.
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
Gave up the dead?
And the sea gave up the dead.
So all those brothers and sisters that were shipwrecked in boats, the sea gave up the dead. Now, if you're getting cremated and somebody taking your ashes and spreading it all over the ocean, does the Most High have the power to bring all those ashes back to one thing and bring you back? Of course. I mean, that's the Most High, but the Most High doesn't talk about that. So, I mean, that's when you're going into that realm, that's a whole nother realm. You don't have to go there. You can stop. All you have to say is the Most High doesn't talk about that. It's simple. Keep going.
Were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
Right.
And they were judged, every man according to their works.
Right. So it's not impossible for the Most High to take some ashes and bring it back to life. But that's not in the scriptures. We're going off of customary burial and what we did as a people. Okay? So, we need the Holy Spirit to overcome all things through Hamashiach Yahushua in repentance when we're looking at this stuff. Let's go to Lazarus. I want to see what happened with Lazarus. Give me John 11 and verse 38. Because Lazarus was Yahushua's cousin. It was his cousin. So when he died, we were just talking earlier about him. Put it real quick.
John chapter 11, verse 38. Jesus therefore again groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it.
Stop. So was he buried in the ground or was he in a cave? He was in a cave. Now when we read about Abraham, Abraham purchased a cave from the Canaanites. That whole land had all kinds of mountains and caves and everything. Abraham, that's what he purchased. So we were buried in sepulchres. We didn't have caskets. We had a little hole, little plot inside these caves where we would get buried, where our bones were covered with linen and wool. Okay? We didn't have no wood to decompose. Our bodies decomposed, but our bones remained. Our bones, what was important. It wasn't our skin, it wasn't our organs, it wasn't our bones was what was important. So when you cremate somebody, what happens to the bones?
Dust.
It becomes dust, right? Go ahead.
Verse 39. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days.
Okay, so rigor mortis sets in after the 24th hour, right? What sets in after that? So it's the term called, I think it's called alga mortis. Alga mortis is when the bacteria starts, your cell starts to get attacked by bacteria, things that feed off your dead cells. Okay, and that's when the stink starts to happen. So what Esau started to do was embalm people like the Egyptians with what? Formaldehyde. The formaldehyde is what stops. It's like putting Roundup on weeds or plants. It keeps the insects away. So that's what that is. So it's formaldehyde and other types of things that they put on the body after 24 hours to keep the bacteria from coming in. So now this is going on, right? Go ahead.
Verse 40. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee, that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid.
Go ahead, keep going.
And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me.
Right, keep going.
And I knew that thou hearest me always, but because of the people that would stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth.
He said, Lazarus, come forth. Right, come on.
And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with napkin. Jesus said unto him, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen these things which Jesus did believed on him.
So Lazarus came back from the dead. And like I said, your body starts to decompose after what? 24 hours to the third day, it starts to decompose. And don't think that insects ain't getting in there, in that cave. You know what I'm saying? So if his body decomposed after 4 days, what happened? His whole body got restored. I mean, things that he probably had problems with in the life prior to him dying got restored as well. You know what I'm saying? On top of that, what did he say before Lazarus rose from the dead? What did Yahushua say? He said, Lazarus, Lazarus. Now this is just an opinion, but had he not said Lazarus, everybody probably could have woke. You know what I'm saying? You never know the power of the Most High. He specifically said his name for him to rise. So I mean, when you look at this right here, it's proven to you that you could be some ashes and the Most High can restore you. You know what I'm saying? But the bones is what was buried in the cave. That was customary. Understand what I'm trying to say? It was customary for us to bury in the living form.
Understand that.
Okay, so we go there and we see that. So it's a good thing, you know, everyone who has woken up to be able to see this. Let's go to Mark 15:43.
15:33.
43. Now I want to show you, because in Egypt, the people who were mummified were the people who were rich. The people who were slaves, they were mummified. And when the Egyptians were mummified, they took the organs out. They even took the brains out of your head with a hook.
Nostrils.
Yeah, with a hook through your nostrils. They pulled your brain out. They didn't think that was important in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what they thought was important? This goes to show you how dumb the Egyptians were. They take your heart out, and then they wrap it, they embalm the heart, and then they wrapped it with linen, and they put it back into the mummy's body, thinking that's what they needed, the heart.
Vain custom.
Vain customs, right?
It's all for show. It looked good.
But it was only for the rich in Egypt.
Praise.
Okay? So when we look at this scripture, let's go here.
Mark chapter 15, verse 43. Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, which also waited for the kingdom of God, came and went in boldly unto Pilate and craved the body of Jesus.
So Joseph of Arimathea was actually Yahushua's uncle, if y'all didn't know. That was his uncle. He was a rich uncle. He was a very rich man in that land. Go ahead.
And Pilate marveled if he were already dead, and calling unto him the centurion, he asked him.
Where are you at? Verse 44?
Yeah, verse 44. He asked him whether he had been any while dead. And when he knew it of the centurion, he gave the body to Joseph. And he bought fine linen and took him down and wrapped him in the linen and laid him in the sepulchre which was hewn out of a rock, and rolled a stone unto the door of the sepulchre. And Mary Magdalene, Mary, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, beheld where he was laid.
Okay, so right there it's telling you that Joseph of Arimathea, he came as a counselor for Yahushua at that time and fought for his body. Boldly, he fought for his body. And what did he do? Once they took him down, they went and buried him. Now, who took him down? Was it Yahushua's mother, Mary, and Mary Magdalene? No. It was the men. The men would customarily take their brothers, a friend of the family. It'll be 8 men, they'll come in and they'll wash the body. That's why Joseph of Arimathea stepped up. And the men that was with him. So they washed his body and then they wrapped it in linen. The women take care of the women, the men take care of the men. That's the way it works. Okay? This new thing today where the women are able to do this, no, back in those days it was a customary thing. Plus it was written by the law. Even in burial, you're supposed to still use your ritual practices of the law, being clean or unclean. All right? Same processes. All right? So let's go from there. Let's go to Mark chapter 16, verse 1.
Mark chapter 16, verse 1. When the Sabbath was passed, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had brought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him.
So they came after the fact. They actually came the following day, after the Sabbath day, which was what? Sunday.
Because it was work on Sabbath.
It was work. They was working on, yeah, right.
They couldn't work on Sabbath.
Exactly. So they couldn't work on the Sabbath, so they came on the Sunday to what? To anoint him with more ornaments, because by this time now, it's the 4th day, right? Like Lazarus died, it was the 4th day when he arose. So she thinking, no, maybe he's going to arose on the 4th day. They don't know. But they remember what he told them. But he arose in 3 days, right? And he was gone. So we got to understand. And what did he take? He took his body. When he arose from the dead, his body was gone. So you look at these things and think, you have to understand the scriptures that all things are possible through the Most High and the Son, Yahushua Christ, Mashiach. So we're gonna look at this and follow these words. But Mary, his mother, kept checking on the body. In other words, no cremation in these scriptures. That's a heathen practice. That's what the Romans did. That's what the Greeks did. They practiced cremation. Let's go to Jeremiah 19 and 5. Read that.
Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 5. They have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal.
Okay, so here's cremation. I said it wasn't in there, but the heathens actually practiced this. Read that again.
Jeremiah chapter 19 verse 5. They built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal.
Keep going.
Which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind.
So the Most High said, do not give your children to the false gods of the land. Why? Because they would be doing this wicked act, burning your sons and daughters, right, as a sacrifice. Let's go to Jeremiah 7. So you don't know what these people be doing when they burn you up. They might be sending up prayers against your whole family. Yeah. Look at what he just did. He just burned up his daughter. He just burned up his father. They don't care about you. You don't know what these warlocks are doing. Jeremiah chapter 7 and 31.
Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 31. And they have built in high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters with fire in the fire.
So they're still doing it, right? All through the Bible is speaking on this. Go into Ezekiel 16 and 21. It's talking about how the heathens would always burn our people, right? We didn't necessarily do it, but we were following the customs of the heathens. Ezekiel 16 and 21.
Ezekiel chapter 16 verse 21. That thou hast slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire.
Through the what?
Through the fire.
Through the fire.
For them.
Right. So when you look at that, it's showing you how the heathen, what? They cremated. They burned bodies. All right. Our bodies should be prepared for burial. Let's go to John 19 and 31. And we're going to speak on the proper burial after this.
What was that last one?
John 19 and 31.
Last one was Ezekiel 16 and...
The last one was Ezekiel 16 and 21? Yeah. Let's go to John 19 and 31. All of this is important for us to know because we haven't been taught. We got to be taught on everything.
Like a baby, man.
Yeah, like a baby again. That's why it says we're being renewed, reborn. So everything that we process has to be changed. All right? John 19, 31.
John chapter 19, verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was an high day.
Now we read that earlier, right? Come on.
Besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away.
So it was a preparation that we bury our people before the Sabbath day, like Yahushua was buried before the Sabbath day. Okay? And remember, Yahushua did all his miracles on the Sabbath day. So who did he raise from the dead on the Sabbath day? Lazarus. He was raised from the dead. So when we look at the proper burial custom, I want to throw a little wrench in here. When you look at Saul, do y'all know how Saul died, the king of Israel, the first king of Israel? How did he die? Y'all know? Huh?
He stabbed.
Fell on the sword.
He committed suicide.
Fell on the sword.
But then when the Philistines got a hold of him, what did they do to his body?
Chop it up, right?
They chopped it up, they maimed it, right? So if your body is maimed, and you try to give somebody a proper burial and their body been all torn to pieces like that, is that a proper burial? You know what I'm saying? Is that still a proper burial? Because you get people who are in bad car accidents. Give me 1 Samuel 31 and 2. You get people who are in bad car accidents and their skin is maimed, the body parts are mangled. You know, so how do you deal with that? How does the mortician deal with that?
1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 2. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons. And the Philistines slew Jonathan and Abinadab and Melchishunah, Saul's sons. And the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then said Saul unto his armor bearer.
So wait a minute, what hit him? The archers hit him with arrows. So not only did he commit suicide, he was hit with archers. He had arrows all in his body. Come on.
Then said Saul unto his armor bearer, draw thy sword.
See, that's what I'm saying. Y'all got to search the scriptures, because if you don't search the scriptures, you watch these movies, and you think this is how Saul died. He committed suicide.
Right.
He did fall on the sword, but he had arrows piercing all in his body, man. You know what I'm saying? There was other ways that he was wounded before he actually killed himself. Come on.
I was about to say, don't in the Apocrypha say something about basically a death is better than a slow death or something like that? and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me.
Right.
But his armor bearer would not.
So he said, look, kill me right now because they're going to come and abuse me. Abuse me how? They're going to torture the king. Torture him, slice his fingers off, ask him questions. They didn't play. Those men back in those days knew how to use swords.
Pull your tongue out.
They knew how to do all that. Poke your eyes out while you're still living. Play with you. All that stuff. Go ahead.
For he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon him. And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor bearer, and all his men, that same day together.
Come on.
And when the men of Israel that were on the other side of the valley.
So how many of y'all seen Jumanji? Y'all seen that in
no.
Jumanji? The newest one.
Yeah.
So the armor bearer in that movie, you had The Rock, and then you had Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was the armor bearer. So he gave The Rock, whenever he asked for a weapon, he was supposed to give him the weapons. Arrow, knife, dagger. Saul had an armor bearer. This dude was running around with weapons. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Verse 7. And when the men of Israel that were on the other side of the valley, and they that were on the other side of Jordan, saw that the men of Israel fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled. And the Philistines came and dwelt in them.
All right, so now they got conquered. Come on.
And it came to pass on the morrow, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons falling in Mount Gilboa.
Come on.
And they cut off his head.
So they cut off Saul's head.
Immediately.
Come on.
And stripped his armor.
Right, so this is a prize. You done found the king, stratego. You done just captured the king.
You get a reward.
Yeah, you're going to get a reward. You're going to get all kinds of jewelry. Your family's taken care of.
Prestige, name,
prestige, everything. Come on.
And sent into the land of the Philistines round about to publish it in the house of their idols and among the people. And they put his armor in the house of Ashtaroth. And they fastened his body to the wall of Beth Shan.
Right, so they fastened his wall as a gift.
Wall of Beth Shan.
Like a deer head. Come on.
And when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard of that which the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth Shan.
Right, so the Israelites went to go retrieve their king. Come on.
And came to Jabesh and burnt them there.
So they burnt these bodies. Why did they burn these bodies?
Because they abused them.
They abused the bodies, they were maimed, and it's a sore, sorrowful thing to say this is how our king passed.
Right.
So they burned the flesh, but they didn't destroy the bones. Understand? So the thing is, like I was talking earlier, they have different types. I told you about the different types of things that Esau used, that alkaline hydrolysis. They would have used it on this particular incident instead of burning his body, because it's just a steam that just melts away your skin and your bones are preserved. Okay? Come on.
And verse 13. And they took their bones and buried them under a tree at Jabesh and fasted 7 days.
See that? So they still took the bones and they what? Buried it.
And they still fasted.
And they still fasted. Well, in that day, when you went to war, you fasted 7 days. Because it was like, you got guys that go to war over in Kuwait, Iraq, and they come back over here and they got, what is that, PTSD? Where you have to go through all types of counseling and see if your mind is, emotional distress. This is what we did back then. Right. We had to sit outside the walls, decompress for 7 days before we went to go be with our families. We just couldn't just walk up in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? You like a wild dog. You've been killing people, been around blood. You can't sleep at night. Hell, you go to Vietnam and you fight in that war. You come back here, you sleeping on the bed, the doggone cellophane circling. You thinking it's a doggone helicopter coming down. You're going to hit the ground. Boom.
Ain't that
you know what I'm saying?
Ain't that some of the how when we conquered another nation, they women, we had gave them 30 days or something like that to mourn.
I can't remember that, but there's scriptures in here that talk about
gave them time.
Cut their hair off, cut their nails.
Oh yeah, right.
Things like that.
Yeah,
had to give them time. Basically, we had a time period
after
the death to get the minds back right.
That's right. Yeah, so
it take 30 years now. It's for life.
Man.
I know, man. They try to get money out of it and everything.
30 days my butt.
So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Give me 1 Chronicles 10 and 12. So, you know, the bones were important. And the thing, too, when you look at slavery, when we went into slavery here in America, the slaves were killing their babies because they didn't want the babies to go into slavery, right?
Right.
So the women, what they would do, once they killed their babies, they had nothing to live for. So you had a lot of suicide going on these ships because they didn't want to go to wherever they were going.
Right.
They would jump off the ships. So I have a book at home where this one slave who was on the ship won the captain's favor. What he did was he went and told the captain, look, if you start cutting off their limbs, cutting off body parts on them and allowing them to live and throwing the body parts over the ocean, over the side of the ship, you'll have them in your possession to do whatever you want them to do. The reason being because us coming from that part of the world, we were spiritual people. And being spiritual people, if we had a body part go over the side of the ship and our body's still sitting on the ship and you die, your spirit, they thought that their spirit would enter into the next life maimed. And so therefore the captain was able to win everybody over that way because nobody wanted to be maimed. So they was like, well, hell, I'll just go into captivity without getting maimed. That way I can, at least when I die, I can have a proper burial. I can go into the resurrection.
And I can come back normal.
Come back normal. Right? That was the thought process of our forefathers.
That's trickery Esau pulled on us.
That's trickery Esau. You see what I'm saying? So that went down. You got that verse out? First Chronicles?
First Chronicles chapter 10, verse 12. They arose, all the valiant men, and took away the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons, and brought them to Jabesh, and buried their sons under the oak in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days.
All right, so they fasted 7 days too. So they buried the bones, okay? Let's look at Luke 16 and 20. Luke 16 and 20. Let's go there.
Luke chapter 16, verse 20. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus,
This is a different Lazarus. Come on.
which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried.
So even the rich man was buried because he could afford to be buried. But when Lazarus died, where did he end up? In Abraham's bosom. Let's see if the rich man could see what Lazarus looked like. Come on.
The rich man was also died and was buried. In hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame.
All right, so right there, this is a metaphorical parable. It's metaphorical. Now, Lazarus died, and the rich man died. When the rich man died, the minute he died, opened his eyes, it's telling you he had eyes, spiritual eyes, right? What did he see? He was able to see Lazarus and recognize that was Lazarus in Abraham's bosom. He's also able to recognize Abraham, right? So that means that Lazarus was comforted. He didn't have the sores on him anymore. So those Africans, or the Israelites that came from West Africa, could possibly have some understanding on that. That's an opinion. That's an opinion. But here's the scriptures to show you that your spirit still dwells in its regular habitual body. It's just healed now. It's at the 10th notch of superbness. You know what I'm saying? Keep going.
Verse 25. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented.
Right. You can stop right there. So it's telling you right there in the spirit world that burial is important, but even after burial, damnation or resurrection is coming. All right. Let's go to Genesis 50. And we're going to go backwards and we're going to talk about what our forefathers did. Originally, our original forefathers. How did they get down? Let's go to Genesis 50 and 25.
Genesis chapter 50, verse 25. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying,
Start at 24.
Verse 24. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land, unto the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him.
Wait a minute, they embalmed him. This is Joseph, come on.
And he was put in a coffin in Egypt.
Why was he embalmed? Why was he put into a coffin in Egypt? What custom is that?
Heathen.
That's the heathen custom. So he was embalmed like an Egyptian because what? Joseph was an Egyptian. He was a Hebrew Israelite Egyptian. See that?
So we took on the customs.
We took on the customs of the heathen.
Same way today.
Same thing today.
Traditions and everything, heathen.
Right. But remember, Joseph told them, let's go to Exodus 13 and 19. Remember what Joseph told his sons, though. He said, take my bones. Exodus 13 and 19.
Exodus chapter 13, verse 19. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had straitly sworn the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones away hence with you.
So they took his bones to what? To give it proper burial in the land of Israel, which is really the land of Canaan. Right? So that's what happened. So we still kept a custom. There was a custom there. Okay? So you got to understand, we have to still adhere to these customs. Give me Joshua 24 and 32. If we're claiming to be Israelites,
You got to live it out.
we need to follow our forefathers' customs, man. If we're doing everything else, not, keeping the Sabbath day holy, all that, why not keep this holy?
Right.
Why? For the resurrection. Trying to be blameless.
Joshua chapter 24, verse 32. And the bones of Joseph, with the children of Israel brought up out of Egypt, buried they in Shechem, in a parcel of the ground which Jacob bought of the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem.
Shechem. Father of Shechem.
Shechem. I like Shechem. For 100 pieces of silver. And it became the inheritance of the children of Joseph.
Right, so there it is right there. It's telling you what? He had his bones buried in Shechem. And this is where the land of Ephraim was. Remember, Joseph was the head of Ephraim. So that's why the Israelites were dwelling in Shechem, in Samaria, because Joseph was buried there. Forefathers up in the mountains. Okay? When you look at this stuff, when you look at the heathens today, the archaeologists and the scientists, and they're digging up the graves over there, what are they doing? They're disturbing our forefathers. Why are they doing that? They're trying to keep us from getting everlasting life. They're trying to keep it, trying to disturb it. They may be carnal in their whole things that they're doing, taking the bones and this and that, but the Most High is still going to bring us back. So they may, they may have the bones of our forefathers. They take a leg here, take an arm here. They know what they're doing, these excavators. Why do you think they're looking for all that stuff? Their whole mission is to find the bones of Israel. Why else would you be over there digging up the ground? They already got the Egyptian monuments. They already know that the pharaohs are there. They already been to Babylon. They all through the castles there. Why else would they be in Israel looking for poor Hebrews? We were poor Israelites. Why were they looking for us? We were rich, but not the way that they think. Like Indiana Jones with Raiders of the Lost Ark. They was looking for a cup of a carpenter. The lady grabs a glass one and kills herself. It was a wooden one. It was a simple one. A wooden glass that you would never even think to drink out of. We were simple people. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't.
It's like the scripture said, we plain man.
Yeah, plain man. Yahushua was a plain man. It's crazy stuff. So their whole mission is to disturb the resurrection of the saints. Let's go to Genesis 15 and 14. Book of Genesis, chapter 15.
Genesis chapter 15, verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve, will I judge.
You're going to judge this nation. Come on.
And afterward they shall come out with great substance.
Come on.
and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age.
Right, that's what we're going to be buried in. We're going to be able to live a long time. We're not going to have the stress. You know what they call racism today? I told you. They got a new word for racism. It's called weathering. Weathering is the new word for racism. This is how they can get past you and talking to different people, sociologists, professionals. They say the weathering. When you hear that word, that's racism. That's black people stressing out. That's women in Israelite women in their 40s and 50s, Native American in the 40s and 50s who have stress, who have racism in their blood and in their veins where they can't produce babies anymore. We used to be able to produce babies in those age frames, right? But now the Edomite women and other Gentile women are able to produce at that time because they don't have the weathering. They don't have the stress of the world, the things that we're dealing with. So the weathering is causing us to die early in this land, right? No matter what we do, the rich is affecting the rich as well as the poor. The rich have just as much as we have, if not more. You know what I'm saying? But it's still not preventing them from death. So it's the weathering. Give me Genesis 25:9.
Genesis chapter 25, verse 9. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, and the son of Zahar the Hittite, which is before Mamre.
So they did bury their father, Abraham. Abraham was buried, and so was Sarah. Sarah was buried too. Right?
Genesis 25, verse 10. Then fled Abraham. Then the field which Abraham purchased of his sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife.
Right. So go to Ecclesiastes 12:7. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Burying is very important. Burying our people.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it.
So the body is going to eventually become dust, and the spirit is going to go where? Into the spiritual chamber until resurrection day. So all of this has to be taken into consideration in how we do things. But customary is our burying of each other. That's brotherly love. Go to Ecclesiastes 6:3. When Joseph of Arimathea buried Yahushua, that was brotherly love. You know, when Samson, we'll go there. We'll touch on that too. Give me Ecclesiastes 6:3.
Book of Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 3. If a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that days of his years may be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he.
There's Solomon saying, look, a burial is important. If you got that many children and they don't give you a good burial, there's something wrong with that picture. You raised them children wrong, or they just got some evil spirits. And don't feel bad if you try to raise them the best way you can. Job did the same thing, and his children still ended up wicked. Let's go to the book of Judges. Let's see what happened to Samson. Judges chapter 16, and start at verse 29.
Judges chapter 16, verse 29. And Samson took hold of the two middle pillars upon which the house stood.
The house of the Philistines. Come on.
And on which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand and the other with his left. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the sword, the Lord's, and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life.
So he slew way more Philistines than 3,000 men with the jawbone of an ass. Come on.
Then his brethren and all the house of his father came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah, his father, and he judged Israel 20 years.
So here's Samson, after having all these boulders of the Colosseum of the Philistines tumble on top of him and all the Philistines, his family still came, found him, and gave him a proper burial. This is an honor to be buried, man. So take precautions when you're burying your family members. You know, this is the proper way of burying our people.
It seems like
it's customary.
It seemed like no matter what, through what kind of death they had, they still buried. That's the point.
Buried.
No matter what kind of death, it seemed like they still buried.
They still went into the customs, man.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, when Hamashiach died, the same thing took place. Give me Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16. Wisdom of Solomon. When you look at the Egyptians and you look at their temples, a lot of those are grave burial grounds. The obelisk, the tall pillars, the bigger the obelisk is, the more powerful the man was that died there. You go to Ethiopia, it's the same thing. If you see like a little headstone, that's not a powerful man in the heathen nations of Ham. The bigger the obelisk, the stronger or powerful the man was.
And you know, so funny you say that? Because even when you go to cemeteries, sometimes you have big headstones,
right?
Or what are those things called that they make where families get buried, get put into the wall?
It's like a sepulcher.
Right, it's like a sepulcher.
Yeah.
Like, but those people that got money, like celebrities and
right.
stuff, all their family goes in that one.
Right.
But like you said, the mediocre, the regular people, normal people, you get the little regular little tube,
right.
little headstone,
yep.
maybe a little plaque.
What do you think the catacombs was in Rome? The catacombs was a burial ground. We had church down there, but it was still a burial ground. We had tombs all up in the caves. That's what the catacombs were. Go ahead and read that out.
16.
Wisdom of Solomon 16 and 13.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 16, verse 13. For thou hast power of life and death. Thou leadest to the gates of hell and bringest up again.
So the Most High is going to bring us up again. When you look at the Aztecs and the Incas and the Mayas, guess what? They buried their dead in the ground where? Facing the east. If you look at all graves, they're all facing the east. Every grave, that's going into the Masonic order, right? But all the graves face east. Your courthouses all face east. So they do that when Yahushua Christ comes back and he does this with his hand, all supposed to rise up and face the east for judgment day. Everything's that way. So Aztecs and Incas and the Mayas also did that. Okay? All facing the east, unless you're in China. You know what I'm saying? But that's just part of the way things work. Give me Tobit chapter 13. Let's go to Tobit. Let's see what Tobit did. Tobit did something that was very brotherly. Very brotherly. Start at 13 verse 1. To show you how important it is. When you get it, just start reading.
Tobit chapter 13 verse 1. Then Tobit wrote a prayer of rejoicing and said, Blessed be God that liveth forever, and blessed be his kingdom. For he doth scourge and have mercy. He leadeth down to hell and bringeth up again. Neither is there any that can avoid his hand.
Right, so Tobit he's showing you his fear of the Most High. Blessed be the kingdom, his kingdom, right? And his mercy. Everything that he put down is going to come back. Give me Tobit 12 and 11.
Tobit chapter 12 verse 11. Surely I will keep closed nothing from you. For I said, it was good to keep closed the secret of a king, but it was honorable to reveal the works of God.
All right, so when you read the book of Tobit, the first chapter is talking about when Tobit brothers was getting killed by Nebuchadnezzar. Was it Nebuchadnezzar? The king of Babylon, of Nineveh. They were killing all of the Israelites and leaving their bodies on top of the ground, and it was a curse to bury them. It was the opposite. The reason why is because the king wanted to come around and tally all the men of Israel that he killed. That's why he was saying, do not bury any of the dead. I'm trying to tally up the numbers. That's where you get the numbers. People were telling, when you read the Bible, you said 10,000 were killed, 20,000 were killed. There was somebody going around counting the bodies.
So they could brag.
Yeah, it's bragging rights and showing you how powerful that nation was, what they killed. So that's why the king said, anyone who buries these bodies, they will be surely put to death. So Tobit was burying his brethren that were killed in the land of Nineveh. All right, so let's read.
Yeah, that was super. What we got? 13 and 12 and
12 and 12.
Tobit chapter 12 verse 12. Now therefore, when thou didst pray, and Sarah, thy daughter-in-law, I did bring the remembrance of your prayers before the Holy One.
Let me bring you up to speed. So there was a man that met with Tobit as a friend that helped him bury the bodies. And this man is talking to him now. Come on.
And when thou didst bury the dead, I was with thee likewise. And when thou didst not delay to rise up and leave thy dinner to go cover the dead, thy good thy good deed was not hid from me, but it was with thee.
He said, this was a good deed when you was burying the dead. Come on. He said, I was with you. You may not have seen me, but I seen you. Come on.
And now God has sent me to heal thee and Sarah thy daughter-in-law. I am Raphael, one of the 7 holy angels, which present the prayers of the saints, and which go in and out before the glory of the Holy.
So all this time he's burying men with this guy he didn't know. And this guy was an angel, one of the 7 angels that sit right amongst the kneecaps of the Most High, Yahweh. He saw all his good deeds. That's why he said, be careful, for you may entertain strangers unaware in Hebrews 13:1. You don't know who you may be entertaining. Come on.
Then they were both troubled and fell upon their faces, for they feared. But he said unto them, fear not, for it shall go well with you. Praise God, therefore, for not of any favor of mine, but by the will of our God I came. Wherefore praise him forever. All these days I did appear unto you, but I did neither eat nor drink, but ye did see a vision. Now therefore give God thanks, for I go up to him that sent me. But write all these things which are done in a book. When they arose, they saw him no more. Then they confessed the great and wonderful works of God, and how the angel of the Lord had appeared unto them.
So all that time they was doing all their good deeds in front of an angel. That's why you have to be careful what you do. Very, very powerful, showing you that we were supposed to bury our brother, bury our sisters, not just leave them out. So when someone is a disgrace, what do we do with the bodies? If we were burying them, if we leave our bodies out, like say for example someone got stoned, once we stone them, did we remove the stones? They stay right there on top of that body. So that was a disgrace. Disgrace to who? Disgrace to the family members. The mother couldn't go give them a proper burial. They weren't supposed to touch it. You got stoned, you weren't supposed to touch that pile of rocks. It stayed there. It was a disgrace. You know what I'm saying? And you had to keep it that way. Now if you start moving them, now you're going to become a curse. You still got mercy because that happened. You know what I mean? But that's why you have to understand the scriptures. Let's go to Acts chapter 2 and 29. Like I said, with Judas Iscariot, did his mom come give him a proper burial? No. He was a disgrace. He betrayed the Son of the Most High. That's a disgrace. Leave his doggone body there. When you look at today's society, how do you know who was a disgrace or not? Everybody gets buried. Someone killed 30 people, what? They get buried. Everybody get buried here. There's nothing where you can make someone a mockery or their family based on, you know how they do it now? Just slandering your name. That's how they do it now. All right? Go ahead. So look at all the things Esau has to pay for, though. He got a lot to pay for.
The book of Acts chapter 2 verse 29. Men and brethren, let me speak freely. Let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried.
So King David is both dead and buried. Come on.
And his sepulcher is with us unto this day.
Right. So his sepulcher is still here, is what they're saying. So even the king of Israel was buried a proper death. All right. Read to 32. Right?
Therefore, being a prophet, knowing that God hath sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit in his throne. Seeing this before spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption.
And we just read that in the Old Testament. Come on.
This Jesus hath God raised up, whereof we all are witnesses. Therefore, being by the right hand of God exalted, and having received of the Father the promise of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, he hath shed forth this, which ye now see and hear. Right,
so that's the way we're supposed to be buried, like our King David. Buried in a sepulcher. That's how we're all supposed to be buried. Give me Joshua 8 and 29. If Christ was buried, why wouldn't we want to be buried? Like I said, I understand everything else is cheap. You may not have the money, you know, but consider your ways. This is a good deed to bury your family members, you know. And we may have done it in the past, but now you know. You got the information now. Joshua 8 and 29. You got some babies that are born, stillborn, and they get a proper burial. All right? Brother up in here had a proper burial with his child, you know. Baby didn't make it. Gave it a proper burial with a garment. You know, said a prayer over it. It was done. So I mean, you gotta follow the whole train of thought of the scriptures. Let's go to Joshua 8 and 29. Read that.
Joshua chapter 8, verse 29. And the king of Ai, he hanged on the tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree and cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raise thereon a great heap of stones that remaineth unto this day.
So here it is right here. This is right here a disgraceful death. This man was wicked. He was worshiping Babel, and he was killed. His body was, like the scripture said, it said his body was flung at the gate. And then they just threw a heap of stones on him. So this is showing you how some of our people were mockeries, and this is how they died. They won't, in the resurrection, everybody knows what's going to happen to them. All right? That name will be a disgrace. You have 1,000 accusers, right? Because they see from generation to generation what Ai did. Let's go to Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Yahushua stopped a lot of stonings. Think about that. Mary Magdalene, she could have been a disgrace to her family. He stopped that stone. You know, Stephen was stoned, right? Yeah. He was stoned, but you know that was from the wicked Jews, wicked Israelites, Negroes, all right? Matthew 27, verse 3.
Matthew 27, verse 3. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that.
He's saying, so Judas is trying to repent. He's saying, I know I sinned. I betrayed the Son of the Most High. All right? And the Jews are still mocking him. All right, what is that to us? Go ahead.
And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. And the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful for to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of
They
blood.
didn't even want that money. Don't give me your money. You just betrayed one of our brethren. They didn't believe that Yahushua was the Son of the Most High, but they knew that he was one of their brethren. And Judas betrayed their brother for what? 30 pieces of silver. They didn't even want that silver. They're like, man, they just threw the money away. You got money that's being devalued every day or burned, you know, every day. The money's not worth anything anymore. Come on.
Verse 7.
All money ain't good money.
Verse 7. And they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day.
It's still called that, the field of blood, to this day. They got tours in Israel, in Jerusalem today, that goes right by this field, saying this is where Judas Iscariot died. To this day, generation after generation, see that he is damned as an individual. Betraying the Son. Keep going.
Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, and whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field. And the Lord appointed me.
And that was,
as the Lord appointed me.
That was a prophecy that Judas would do what he did. So Yahushua knew the scriptures, right? Go to Jeremiah 22 and 16. Jeremiah 22 and 16.
Jeremiah chapter 22, verse 16. He judged the cause of the poor and needy. Then it was well with him. Was not this to know me, saith the Lord? But thine eyes and thine heart are not but for thy covetousness, and for to shed innocent blood, for oppression, and for violence to do it.
See that? So right there, he did violence by what? Shedding innocent blood. Go to Isaiah 14 and 20, and we'll stop right here. Isaiah 14 and 20.
Isaiah chapter 14, verse 20. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land, and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned.
So that's what the Israelites knew about these men who betrayed their brethren. Even in death, because they were Judases, they're saying that their name will never be renowned. That's why when you read Daniel, it says that those who are great as the stars, and then those who are what? It's the 12th chapter. You got it? 3:12 and verse 2.
The book of Daniel chapter 12 verse 2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
And that's these men, Judas Iscariot, all these brothers, man, did wrong. And the armor bearer of Saul, you know what I'm saying? All these men are having shameful deaths. Okay? So you don't want to be one of these men. And you also want to be one of these men who takes care of your family or your brothers and sisters,
Like Tobit,
and give them the proper burial like Tobit. Very important. So is this an important discussion to have? Of course it is. This is something that we need to visit and know what's right from wrong, basically.
don't this go along with Brother Yahar last night about showing that brotherly love?
Brotherly love.
Because if you know the scriptures and let's say a family member is not in the scriptures like a lot of our families is, and you don't assist in that burial, you're not showing love, right?
Right. That's true. That was a good lesson that Brother Yahar did last night on brotherly love. So yeah, brotherly love is important. That's why, give me Matthew 22 real quick and we'll end with this. 22 and 16.
Matthew chapter 22 verse 16.
Not 16, it's 40.
Matthew chapter 22 verse 40. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. While the Pharisees were gathered.
Go up 2 verses.
Verse 38. This is the first and great commandment.
What is the first and great commandment? To love the Most High with all your heart, mind, and soul. This is the second commandment he's about to read. Go ahead.
And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right, so that's the second greatest commandment, and that's even in burial. Very important. Any questions? Classroom? Conference call? Any questions?
Great.
Yeah, like I said with that receipt, when you get that receipt, and a lot of us have been through burial with family members, when you get that receipt from the coroner's office, that's where you can tell the doctors whether you want, or tell them whether you're going to do burial or cremation. So you have the power to stop that. You take a vote, but you know, as an Israelite, we're supposed to really follow our customs.
Is there a wise way to go about it, like a less expensive, more expensive way to go about it?
Well, they get you with the caskets, they get you with the add-ons, the extra amenities. It's a money-making industry.
Any kind of room?
You know, it's a money-making industry.
Some ways you gotta have insurance.
You gotta have insurance.
Is that what you just? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, there's a brother in the truth, and I'll say his name. His name is Brother Kahan. The brother's down in Florida. For all you brothers who are fearful of getting insurance with Esau and all of that, Brother Kahan does insurance, and I don't know if they are doing proper burials or things of that nature, but they provide insurance for brothers who don't have it for burial. And brothers, you should have insurance,
Right.
because to put a burden like that on your family is very stressful.
It is.
You know, if you can pay $10 a month for some insurance, have yourself buried in the future, you know, that's very important. It's very thoughtful. That's what they call selfless. Not selfish, but selfless, meaning you're concerned about your family more than you are yourself. You know, so, you know, things like that should be considered.
From following the sheep, to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
much. Yeah. People dying every day.
Every day. It's a booming business. It's a booming business. People. Shoot.
It's highly relevant.
Yeah, man. I once knew a mortician. He tried to get me to come work with him. And morticians have the weirdest sense of humor. And I said, no, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not working around nobody like that. He was like, man, why? They can't hurt you.
You're